Chantal, do you want to stop me for any reason or have any questions?
No, I found this very informative, and especially the comparisons between, I guess, maybe a little bit of my experience and how it operates for the clinic within where you are. But I'm appreciating this a lot.
Good.
Yeah.
Please stop me if you have any other questions. So this is really, I'm hoping that this is really helpful for Mariah as well. So
yeah, she'll be able to see am I on mute again? No, she'll be able to see the recording once it gets edited. So
yeah, I figured that.
Questions to be answered. Chantal, if you have other questions or if you want to log off, you can do whatever's most comfortable for you. The one thing I wanted to say to you was that since this is your first Kunik session, I'm going to put in the chat an invite for you to join the Trupanion Kunik page that's specifically for Trupanion.
Okay.
And if there's anything else that you want to see or any other, coworkers that you have that want to see something that we can do, you can just let us know. So I just put it there in the chat for you. So if you click on that, it'll take you right over for it. And this is Cam. Cam works at Kunik too.
Hi, Chantal. How are you?
I'm good, Cam. How are you?
I'm doing great.
Good.
Cam.
Hey, Kirstin.
So Chantal, hopefully this will be helpful for Mariah as well, but this is really that advocacy piece. And so, once you receive the neuropsychological report, often there's a lot of kind of legal stipulation around how quickly when you receive the report and give it to the school. Here in Massachusetts, they legally have 10 days to convene. And so the school team has to get together to discuss the report within 10 days, technically. That does not happen with great frequency, but legally they're required to meet within 10 days. So whenever there's kind of new information that comes up about your child, whether it's you said that your child just got diagnosed with a learning disability, if you told the school that in Massachusetts, they would have 10 days to reconvene to kind of discuss how that would be reflected in his programming. And so once you receive the report, you can ask to meet with the team, and you'd be kind of, what I would encourage is kind of going over that list of recommendations, the school section in the report of recommendations with the team. And this is where it can get a little bit tricky. There might need to be some negotiation that happens. So for example, the district might say, and quite transparently, it's typically like a money game where the district knows they can only provide like X number of speech therapy sessions per week. They have to work, they're in fairness on their end, they have to work out a lot of this logistically. And so, the team might go back and say, you're asking Dr. Birtwell said that your son requires speech and language therapy 3 times a week. We're only able to offer 2. And so it could be that there's a little bit of a kind of negotiation that happens. And then this is the part maybe for Mariah that I think would be helpful, but a lot of our patients actually choose to acquire the services from an educational advocate. There's a lot in this area in Massachusetts, but there are professionals and specialists that kind of exist, and quite frankly, a lot of them are parents that have gone through the process themselves and are so kind of fired up and passionate about it. They choose to do this with their kind of like second career, but there's a lot of advocates that really can help with this. And so the reason why I bring this up is because I think, we've talked a lot about this collaborative relationship between the family and the school district. If you're worried about that not being the case, and maybe that relationship between yourself and the district being a little bit more vulnerable, then it can be really helpful to have that third party there to kind of do the advocacy for you and maybe have some of the more difficult conversations on your behalf with the district. And then, quite frankly, I also work with special education attorneys a great amount. I do a lot of placement evaluations for some of our more kind of higher need or more impaired patients. And so I work with a lot of special education attorneys as well. And so, an advocate would be kind of that lower level intervention. And then obviously acquiring the services of a special education attorney would be kind of bringing out the big guns. So I think similarly, Chantel, for you in Canada, I think, again, we want to think about the IEP as really being kind of a legal document and a contract between yourself and the school. There's a lot of policies in place that are really protecting your child in order for, if the IEP says that they're supposed to be getting X, Y, and Z, they're legally obligated to get X, Y, and Z. Something that happened pretty significantly with COVID and why everyone in the field, I think, is a little bit swamped and saturated right now is now everyone's going back in person. And there's been a lot of what's called Iep Non-Compliance. And so a lot of our patients haven't been getting the supports and services throughout the COVID year that are on their IEP. And so there's a lot of kind of new advocacy for trying to get those services back in place, or even try to do something called compensatory services, which would be to kind of make up for lost time over the summer, for example. But some additional tips that I've received from advocates over the years that I think are really helpful would be when you go to these big team meetings, in addition to potentially bringing an advocate, it could be really helpful for you to bring a note taker with you. And that would be the reason why is because I think parents just get really bombarded with really complex information. And it's really important for you as the parent to really be present in that conversation. And sometimes as a parent, you're so busy kind of taking copious notes on everything that's being said or trying to make sure that you have all the documentation in place. Sometimes it can distract from just you being able to kind of be present and have that conversation. Chantel, I don't know if that's been your experience at all in any of your meetings.
For myself, I've kind of, when it comes to meetings for Liam and organizing with his community team and his school team, I kind of take the approach like I would in a business meeting. So it's almost like I for a moment, I'll turn off the emotional side. I'm still mommy and the maternal side is still there, but I go very businesslike and try to organize it and approach it. And that means, and then usually by the end of the meeting, I'm so emotionally pent up and whatnot. That's when I get a good cry out because that's when the mommy side comes out. But I found that that's my most successful way of doing it. Like I had mentioned, I spoke at for a university class in regards to the parent school relationship and being from the parent perspective. My presentation was titled Liam Incorporated because that's kind of how I've approached it historically with my meetings and gathering things, because I can totally see when you say bringing a note taker. I think if I didn't have the skill set I have from work, I would probably find that really helpful to have someone else there to take the notes as the whole conversation is going down, because there's so much information that's being passed out through those meetings. Yeah.
Totally. Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Something else that can be really helpful is to bring a picture of your child with you. And so I know this sounds a little bit silly, but a lot of the administrators that might be sitting in on that meeting that are actually making decisions about the programming for your child don't know your child and have never met your child and likely will not meet your child. And so this is something I've really thought a lot about this and really guide parents on this quite a bit of that whole idea of bringing a picture of your child. Some parents even make like a really quick, like kind of handout of like, this is like, this is Lily, you know what I mean? And it can be really humanizing for the administrators, again, that are making these, quite frankly, financial decisions about your child's programming, to have that kind of very kind of human sense of the decisions they're making and the impact that it's having on that child's development and that child's life.
That's great advice, Kier.